that is to be delivered by the president of PENGASSAN himself, who is the convener of PENGASSAN Energy and Labor Summit 2023. A round of applause as we welcome the president of PENGASSAN, Comrade Festus Osifo, for his welcome address. Please, let's clap. And then you don't sit to clap for your president, you clap for him and stand to your feet until he comes up here. Mr. President, you're welcome.
Solidarity. Solidarity. Great PENGASSAN. Great PENGASSAN. Great PENGASSAN. Injury to one. Blessing to one. Credit alert to one. Credit alert to one. Credit alert to one. Great Nigerian workers. Great Nigerian workers. Ever conscious Nigerian workers. Solidarity. First of all, I wish to thank God Almighty for bringing us here once again after the maiden summit that we held last year. I know the protocol had earlier been established, but for emphasis sake, just to recognize the representative of the Senate President, Senator Jarigbe Agom, Jarigbe, Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas. We thank you for being here, and also all the dignitaries that are here today and those that are still on their way. We wish to specially recognize the presence of the GCEO NNPC Limited. We appreciate you, our very own comrade, the man who has been in the struggle so many years ago. The man who said that the only thing that pained him all through his illustrious career in NNPC and NNPC Limited is that he wanted to be president of PENGASSAN and that he lost by 2 votes. And the man that defeated him is the only person that is not sitting among the past presidents today. It would have been so interesting. All the past presidents of PENGASSAN, I appreciate you all for your consistent and your constant support over the years. I appreciate you that the fact that you have served in this position several years ago, you still give us the support, you still give us the solidarity. You are always there whenever we call on you. Our very own daddy, Comrade Ezewaka, to Comrade Owoduni, to Comrade Dr. Brian Ugbefun, to Comrade Peter Esele, and to Comrade Babatunde Oguns. If you look at the way they are all seated, they are seated according to hierarchies. So the MC, next time don't make such mistakes, because when you just look at them, just call them from the beginning to the end, because that is how they always sit. Whenever they are in the meeting, even if the most senior is not around, they will keep that seat for him, because they know that when he comes, he knows the position he's going to take. We celebrate you. We thank you for all that you have done for this movement, because without your efforts, without your solidarity, and without your strong push over the years, we wouldn't have been here today. Then a lot of people don't also know that the current GCO of NNPC was at the time the group chairman of PENGASSAN in NNPC. You know, in NNPC we have about 12 branches. So he was the group chairman of PENGASSAN in NNPC for so many years. Then we celebrate all our dignitaries that are here today. We have the President of Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, who doubles as the first Deputy President of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Dr. Tommy Okon. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir. We also have, we have Tim Okon and Tommy Okon. So Tim Okon is sitting down, and that is Tommy Okon. Then also we have the president of FOCTOB, who doubled as the third deputy president of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. We appreciate you. You are welcome, sir. Jimo Oyibo. Then we have the other executives of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. We have Isaac Egbugara, who is the financial secretary, and also Williams Iye, who is the auditor of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Then we have the Secretary General of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, my very own brother, Comrade Nuhu Abba Toro. We quite appreciate you. The representative of the various companies that are here today, I can see the ERO manager from ExxonMobil, you are quite appreciated, and all other representatives from the various IOCs, the various service companies, and the various regulatory bodies. We were also told that some of our ministers, they are out, but they promised to join us in the course of this program, because actually a 3-day program. The Minister of Gas is out in the Ivory Coast, and he promised to join us tomorrow or Wednesday, same with the Minister of Oil. And the Labour Minister will be here anytime soon. So we appreciate us all. And more especially, we have a very good friend, a brother, someone who left us in the trenches and is now enjoying, with the political juggernauts. Our very own brother, the man with lots of intellect, the man who has led several movements, from the trade union movement also to PENGASSAN. He was a former chairman of PENGASSAN in ExxonMobil. I quite appreciate you, Comrade Engineer Razak Obe, now a commissioner of mineral resources in Ondo State. We quite appreciate you, and we believe that everything you have learned in PENGASSAN, you are putting it to use in Ondo, and from the performance that we have seen so far, we are quite proud of you. We are extremely delighted to be associated with you. Thank you so much. Then to our guest lecturers, we salute you. Our daddy, Dr. Tim Okon, is someone that, he has been there. He is a teacher, he is a mentor, he's someone that has led to his philosophies and his ideals has led to the growth of the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. We appreciate you, sir. We thank you for all you do, and we appreciate you for never getting tired. That anytime we call on you, you are always there to give us the support, you are always there to give us the push. We quite appreciate. Then to our other lecturer as well, we thank you. You were there in our delegate conference, you are also here today. To the CWC members of PENGASSAN, I quite appreciate you, from the Deputy President, National Industrial Relations Officer, the National Treasurer, and all other CWC members. I appreciate you. Then to our secretarial staff, thank you for being here. To our NEC members of PENGASSAN, we quite appreciate you, and we thank God Almighty for journey mercies from your various destinations to Abuja. You are well appreciated. So, comrades, I will quickly read through the prepared speech. It's there in the brochure. Welcome remarks by Comrade Engineer Festus Osifo, PENGASSAN President, during the PENGASSAN Energy and Labour Summit, 9th to 11th October 2023, at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja. It is with great joy, enwrapped with a profound sense of responsibility, that I welcome every one of you to the second edition of the PENGASSAN Energy and Labour Summit, PEARS 2023. The theme of our PEARS Summit this year is aptly titled Petroleum Downstream Deregulation and Gas Utilization for a Sustainable Energy Future in Nigeria. The theme was carefully chosen, given the multifaceted challenges and opportunities inherent in our energy sector vis-a-vis the global energy demand, to illuminate the path towards a sustainable energy future for Nigeria and, by extension, Nigerians. Over the next 3 days, we will engage in enlightening discussions, share insights, and formulate strategies to address critical issues such as divestment, PMS subsidy removal, and the place and role of ever-ready Nigerian workers in the oil and gas industry and its concomitant value chains. We are witnessing a significant shift in the landscape of the energy sector in the country. marked by the divestment actions of companies such as Mobil Producing Nigeria, Nigeria Agip Company, SPDC, and others, which has impacted the presence of international oil and gas companies in Nigeria. These developments necessitate a collective reflection on the implications for our industry, nation, and people. The removal of PMS subsidies and current state of our refineries are of paramount importance, touching the lives of every Nigerian. These are intricate challenges that demand comprehensive solutions, balancing economic viabilities, and the well-being of our populace. As we gather here, let us not lose sight of the broader state of our nation. Nigeria stands at a crossroads, and our actions and decisions here in the next few days will provide a framework for the policy thrust of government towards shaping the economic outlook of our country. It is incumbent upon us to drive positive change, foster economic growth, and ensure our people's prosperity. Recent policy direction by the government has placed untold hardship on Nigerians, chief of which is the PMS subsidy removal and the floating of the naira-dollar exchange rate. The overwhelming impact of these on Nigerians can only be imagined rather than experienced. Part of the decisions of floating has only benefited the government and oil and gas companies in Nigeria. This has necessitated a call for a salary benchmark for oil and gas workers, aligning with the instrument of trade of the oil and gas commodities. The model practiced in Angola, where legislation pegs workers' salaries in dollars and pay them the legal tender equivalent, is a testament to the possibilities of safeguarding the interests of workers amidst currency fluctuations. The floating of naira in the official market has exacerbated the challenges faced by our members. We must explore innovative solutions to forestall financial losses to workers and prevent undue gains to companies, ensuring a fair and equitable environment for all. PENGASSAN will do all it can to push for this just and equitable distribution across the branches. We will delve into these critical discussions. As we delve into these critical discussions, I would like to acknowledge the importance of collective efforts and invaluable contributions of everyone present. Our summit serves as a platform for dialogue, collaboration, and actions. I'm confident that together we can forge a path towards a brighter and more sustainable energy futures for our industry and our nation. In conclusion, I warmly welcome you all to this significant event and the award and gala night. I am particularly excited for us to witness and celebrate the star prize winner of the PENGASSAN National Essay Competition on national discourse amongst Nigerian students, a testament to the vibrant and promising future that lies in the hands of our children and youth. Thank you for being here. Let's make PES 2023 a landmark summit that contributes substantially to the advancement of our sector and the prosperity of our beloved country, Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless us all.
A round of applause for the President of PENGASSAN one more time. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for bringing us here. The President, other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are going straight to the opening remarks. And before I call on, I want to thank Mr. President for the correction. I didn't carry my head. Actually, I would have seen that the past presidents are all seated like the sons of Jacob when they visited Egypt. The Bible says they sat from the eldest to the youngest. So now I have taken note of them, and I will not repeat that mistake tomorrow. Thank you very much, my past presidents. Before we bring in for the opening remarks, the representative of the Senate President, let me welcome Mr. Matthias Bionku, the GM, Admin, and HR representing the DG, CEO, NNRA, Dr. Yao Idris. A round of applause for him, please. You are most welcome, sir. Mr. President, we're taking the opening remark from the Senate President that is ably represented here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Senator Agom Ajaribe to give us the opening remark of the Senate President. He's the Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas. A round of applause for him as he comes up, please.
Thank you very much. Solidarity. The President of PENGASSAN, Comrade Festus Osifo, the Group Chief Executive Officer of NMPCL, Engineer Mele Kyari, the representatives of the IOCs, members of PENGASSAN, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency the Senate President has asked me to represent him because he's engaged with other national issues. But I'll take his address verbatim, centered on the subject matter, petroleum industry regulation and gas utilization for a sustainable energy in Nigeria. I deeply appreciate your kind invitation to me to be part of this patriotic summit to discuss petroleum industry, deregulation, and the future of energy in our country. I'm equally delighted that, in consideration of my modest contributions in the different stations of my public service, you have deemed it fit to give me an award. I am delighted because PENGASSAN is not just an ordinary labor union, it is a story in dutiful patriotism and nationalism. The first line of our national anthem says, "Arise, O compatriots, Nigerians call obey." PENGASSAN strapped its boots, braved the odds, and responded to that call when it mattered most. PENGASSAN responded when the call was most strident, most compelling, most plaintive. Military dictatorship had bared its fangs 29 years ago. It bestrode our nation like Goliath, defying the forces of democracy in our nation. But on the 5th of July 1994, PENGASSAN and NUPENG stepped out of their comfort zones to confront this monster. They protested the annulment of June 12 presidential election and demanded for a return to civilian rule. By the margin of their fate, despite all arrests and intimidation, they set the record for the longest strike action in our country's nation history. They did not only write their names into our folklores and legends, they stenciled their names in gold in the history of our democratic struggles. The chain of events occasioned by that action was one of the major contributory factors that led to our democracy. Our country and our posterity owe them a debt of gratitude. And I am happy that our nation has seen the need to celebrate them and all others like the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, the press, the Martyrs, General Abdulsalami Abubakar and his administration, and others on whose shoulders and courage our present democracy rests on June 12th of every year. Today's event is, therefore, another bit of evidence and a reminder that PENGASSAN is not tired of responding to our country's call and not weary of serving our nation with heart and might. We now have democracy. The demand of democracy is that governance should always act in the best interest of the people in order to preserve the public trust. Government is a contraption of necessity. Like James Madison said, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. But in a world With finite resources and competition, one non-angel will spoil everything for all angels. Here is how. The one non-angel would, in pursuance of his selfish interests, compromise the common good and the interest of the angels. Then one by one, the angels will renounce their righteousness and join the competition to protect their interest. This they will do because self-preservation is the first law of nature. Therefore, every functional work system should strive to meet the challenge of self-interest. This is at the root of theory of the tragedy of commons. When the Nigerian government decided to introduce petroleum subsidy, the intention was based on the angelic nature of mankind, not the beastly nature of brutish incentivery. It was believed that subsidy will push down the price of fuel, make fuel accessible in all outlets, and be a boon and blessing to our teeming populace. Between 1965 and 1989, government added more impetus to this intention by the introduction of 4 refineries which could output 444,000 barrels of oil per day for local consumption. For effective management of these refineries, government promulgated the Petroleum Products Uniform Prices Order of 1973. The Petroleum Equalization Fund, Bridge Management Board, Decree of 1975, and the Petroleum Amendment Orders of 1996 and 1998. But because men are not angels, here is what came out of this. We had inadequate supply and dubious distribution of petroleum products, corruption, monopolistic practices, misappropriation, bunkering, trafficking of refined products to other countries. Though the intention was good, it fell flat because it violated the ancient Roman wisdom, quis custodiet ipsos custodes, who shall watch the watchers. With no one watching and monitoring the watchers, this became a reverse Robin Hood situation, which means robbing the poor to pay the rich. His Excellency, President Bola Tinubu, was therefore right to end this subsidy and surgically remove the arteries of corruption which had been draining our economy. The regulation is intended to improve efficient and effective utilization of scarce resources, end product scarcity, improve operations in the sector, stop waste, expand opportunities for growth in the upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors of the industry. If the 7.3 trillion spent on fuel subsidies since 2016 was put in capital projects, our country would have been better for it. This is what the regulation seeks to do. Free funds for education, capital projects, agriculture, rural development, education, sports development, maritime activities, etc. The 4 refineries are not working at the moment, but with the regulation, the fortunes of these may change. The sector will become more efficient. Now, we come to how gas can be utilized for a sustainable energy future in our country. Since sustainable energy is any source of energy that cannot be depleted and can remain forever viable, it is also an escape from the tragedy of commons. Sustainable energy cannot be renewed, nor can it be depleted. It does not harm the environment. Of course, gas can be used in a transitional role in sustainable energy. This occurs in situations where wind and solar energy is used. And if the sun and wind fail to meet the power needs, gas can be used to meet the demand. Conversely, surplus wind and solar energy can temporarily be stored in the gas system. This is the future and the reality as the world seeks to move away from oil. It is a future we should prepare for, and which I hope this summit would address and presents its recommendations to the relevant committees of both chambers of the National Assembly for consideration. Let me assure our countrymen that the 10th Assembly is happy with the deregulation and sees it as vital to our national development goals. We are also aware of its impact on the society and the federal government's effort to address all contending issues which have arisen consequent upon the deregulation of the petroleum sector. We urge Nigerians to see this as the pain of childbirth. If we endure the pain and carry forth this pregnancy, we will bring forth a new season of renewed hope. On a lighter note, in football, the player who dons the jersey with the number 10 operates in the spaces between central midfield and the front line. He operates between the lines. When a player wears this number, it marks out the player as the most technically proficient and creative player in the team. And with this understanding comes great responsibility and pressure. Nigerians should watch out for this assembly in the midfield of our national life and in the front line of action in defense of our people. We will see between the lines in making laws in the interest of our people. We are technically proficient and creative. We understand the great responsibility and pressure upon us. Like that great number 10 Pele did not disappoint Brazil, the 10th National Assembly will not disappoint our country. This is another reason it is an uncommon National Assembly. The President, Executive, and members of PENGASSAN, I accept your award with joy. Permit me to dedicate it to all our countrymen in general and my friends and colleagues in the 10th Assembly in particular. To whom much is given, much is expected, and this award shall be a source of motivation for me to do more for our country. God bless you, and thank you for your very kind attention. Thank you very much. He has promised to be with PENGASSAN on the 11th for the gala night. Thank you.
A round of applause for the representative of the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Godswill Ogonekpabio. Thank you, Chairman, Committee on Gas, Senator Agom Jaribe. You're welcome, sir. President of PENGASSAN, we have a representative of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, is here represented by Simon Chungu, who is the Director, Secretary to Government of the Federation Main Office. A round of applause for him, please. You're welcome, sir. Please, I would like to inform us that we are live on Channels Television. This program is live, so we have to be guided accordingly. Thank you. The keynote address will be taken by no other. Is coming to speak to us on a vision for deregulation and gas utilization for sustainable energy in Nigeria. A man who is well vested and vast in this area is the man that PENGASSAN have chosen for this year to be the one to speak to us on this. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, help me welcome the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Comrade Engineer Mele Kyari OFR, to lead us. A round of applause for him, please, as he comes up. Please, let's clap till he gets here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Comrade President Festus, my younger brother. Let me start with you, and I wish you well, because needless to say that I recognize the presence of the distinguished Senate President, represented by my brother also, distinguished Senator Jaribe, Senate Committee Chairman on Gas. I would like to particularly welcome you to this event, and of course the representative of the Senate Secretary of Government of the Federation. And when they are making the sitting arrangements, I saw a gap. They say the past presidents are sitting in rows. There is no space for those who fail elections. And I was waiting for the comrade president to say that at least a seat behind someone will be useful, and I'll happily take that seat. And that person can be no other person than Austin Ezenwaka, because he pulled me, he recruited me into PENGASSAN. He was the national president when we were just graduate trainees, and he influenced definitely my being an official of the PENGASSAN from that date. And of course, I don't want to mention all the names. I know everyone. Alhaji Bala Odumi, he was president when we are also have a different view around what PENGASSAN should do, and he tolerated us for our youthful exuberance at that time. And the rest are my peer group. Comrade Brown, Peter Esele, Batunde was one of my supporters that led me to losing the election also. But he wasn't part of the loss. Actually, he wept after I lost the election. And he said, thank you very much for the comradeship. Otherwise, I'm one of us, not one of you, and I'm happy to be here. But I also have the privilege of being the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited. And let me just take you back big in history. I know Comrade Austin Ezenwaka, my elder brother and my president, knows that PENGASSAN people are seen, union people generally, are seen generally as people who have no future in companies because they are not happy with the organization, so they have no prospect. So that's why they are in the union. And I remember in the mid-90s when we had those engagements with the NNPC management staff, and they tell us, look, let's just manage these boys, they are not happy. And I remember few of us said this, that we're part of these organizations. We enjoy the growth in this organization, we'll benefit from it, and that we can be anything in this company. So, and this is a testimony, and I can see very many senior PENGASSAN officials becoming leaders in many organizations, and so it's no longer true. And I'm also one of them. So if that perception is right, I shouldn't be standing before you speaking to you as the group CEO of NNPC. So PENGASSAN people are workers, part of the organization, part of the credible part of the organization that can add value to the organization. And having taken all your time on all this, let me come to the crux of the matter, which is deregulation. What's the vision for deregulation? And how can we have sustainable supply of energy? Maybe my own way of putting it very, very differently. And it's very important to know where we're coming from. Every government has attempted removal of subsidy on petroleum products in stages. Until May 29, every other product that we have in the industry is priced at the market, except PMS. And there are several attempts to do this in the past, historical, 30, 40 years of attempts. But it didn't happen because there was a communication gap. There was lack of facing realities by all of us as a country. By the wrong assumptions that when you take out subsidy, enormous pains will come and that there will be no value and there is no benefit. And that was a very, very difficult historical conversation. And I happen to be part of this conversation since I was recruited, because I came into the trade unions a few years after being recruited into NNPC. So I know the story of subsidy. And I was relating to it until I became the group CEO of this company. If there is one thing that stifled growth in the downstream sector of the petroleum industry is the existence of subsidy. And that's the reality. There are today over close to 25 licenses to create refineries. build and operate refineries, nobody could take the next step, because as long as you do not have certainty around pricing and who is going to pay for that difference, no one will put his money. And as long as you have arbitrage, it's as simple as also cocaine. Once there's a price differential between one location and the other that is substantial, there is no way you can control fraud of all forms, of all manners. It is impossible. And people will do everything possible to move product between locations, whatever it is, whether it is drugs or petroleum metal spirit. This will happen, and people will cut corners as long as the market doesn't determine your price. Now, should market always determine price of commodities? Yes. But should it be managed? I agree completely. And that is what a framework of managing pricing can do for a country. And I also have the privilege of being associated with the Petroleum Industry Act up to its enactment into law. The key issue was that, can we deal with the removal of subsidy on PMS? And the law was very clear that with effect from 17th of February 2022, there can be no possibility of having subsidy on PMS, and that the market should determine the price, and that the state should take every step that is practical to ensure that the consumer is protected from the obvious issues that comes with the open market pricing of petroleum or any product for that matter. So by the 17th of February, there is simply no legal basis, no legal provision to put subsidy on petroleum motor spirit. And of course, you are dealing with a very big country, over 200 million people in population, huge issues around economic inclusion, and therefore it became very obvious that it was not practical to stop the placement of subsidy on PMS. So the National Assembly and government in its wisdom decided, can we provide for financing until 30th of June 2023, so that we can now close that gap and then have the right conversation and engagement to ensure that we exit this properly. Obviously, budget is one thing, funding is a different thing. And I can tell you, since 2022, when that provision was made, until the 29th of May, not a single naira was paid to the NNPC Limited as cost of subsidy. That means we are carrying it entirely on the balance sheet of the NNPC. We'll hold back fiscal revenues, taxes, royalties, including profits, and yet, because you are seeing values exceeding 400 billion in a month of subsidy, there is no way even these fiscal obligations will cover for the subsidy. So we are heading towards what we can just technically call bankruptcy of the NNPC, because you will go into negative cash flow. By the end of June 2023, we would have been in negative cash flow. What simply means that NNPC would have been bankrupt if that bold decision was not taken by Mr. President. And of course, there will be common understanding and argument that there's a provision of subsidy in the budget. Yes, that's correct. But you don't have the resources to back it up. And you're also facing the realities that not doing this will mean the continuous fraud that we all talked about, and I'm very happy the Senate President mentioned it. There's no way you can stop fraud when you have huge arbitrage. So it's not possible. You can exclude yourself. I can say, look, I'm not involved, but that's not sufficient, because there is simply no way you can manage an environment where there's a huge difference between the market value of a commodity and its price in the market, and you continue to have those issues in the market, shortages, supply issues, cross-border smuggling, round-tripping, and you can call anything. They will continue to happen as long as you do not have a market control pricing mechanism. Government can move its resources so that those benefits that would have been on transportation can go to other sectors, can build railway infrastructure and so on and so forth, so that the ordinary people can benefit better. But as long as you keep this, you will continue to face that challenge, and this is why all of us must appreciate Mr. President for making that bold step, taking that bold step. But it comes with things, no doubt about it. It brought tremendous challenge to economic realities around us. For instance, cost of transportation almost doubled. As you can see, and the reality is also, the evacuation, and I've always said that we do not have very credible data on fuel consumption in this country. The reason is very, very simple. Technology absence, cross-border smuggling, and all the other segments of our system that are still not optimum cannot allow us to have a total idea or a fixed number around our consumption. So, but we know the evacuation. Evacuation means every liter of product that leaves the depot is known. So because their trucks are known, the volume they carry, the truck driver, potential destination, fuel station, and so on and so forth. But we all know this. But once they get out of the depot, the next story is anybody's guess. Fuel station will have to sell to jerry cans because we'll have an energy deficiency gap. You know that, my neighbor's story, everybody knows this. So you have to come with a gallon to buy fuel in the fuel station to fuel your small generator or any size. Then water pumps for irrigation across the country. So it's not possible to keep accurate data of all this except you're able to have the right installations in all the fuel stations across the country. And I know this is work in progress, but it's not there today. So we don't have that total visibility. Despite this, the evacuation from the depots declined by 30% since the removal of the subsidy. That means we are doing up to 6.6 million liters of PMS every day, and that includes cross-border smuggling, round-tripping, and anything that wrong you can call, and also including any other form of irregularity that will happen. You do 6.7 million liters of PMS to making sure that there is no scarcity in the country. We knew that that is not our consumption. But as soon as you reduce those volume by just 5 million liters for 3 days, you'll see queues in the street. That means you have to fill the gap of the realities and also fill the gap of all the things that happen outside the reality. Cross-border smuggling, round-tripping, and everything. If you don't provide for it, you'll have scarcity. And this is what NNPC has been dealing with for all the years, knowing fully well that those volumes don't necessarily reflect our real consumption. As soon as the subsidy is removed, that means when you do anything, there's no benefit to you. If you keep it at home or in your fuel station, you don't sell, you run into trouble, the banks will come after you. And what we ended up is the market realities, which is why you are seeing 30% drop in evacuation from the depot. And this will continue to be so until you have another situation that will make you do something different. For instance, and this is connected to the ongoing efforts to ensure that we have alternative fuel. And we all know that CNG as an automobile fuel is very effective, it's cheaper, it's cleaner, and that is why we are putting enormous effort, both as NNPC Limited and as government, to ensure that we scale up access to CNG so that people will have alternative fuel that they can do. And that will bring down the pressure on the PMS. The reason is very simple. Today, because the way gas is priced, it doesn't escalate as you see for PMS. And therefore, you will probably see, if in today's market, I know those who patronize CNG will bear me witness that probably 200, 230 naira equivalent per liter. That means instead of 617 in Abuja, you can actually buy fuel of the same value at about a third of the price. So this is why those efforts are going on, and it will continue to ensure that we bring down pressure, we reduce pressure on the PMS now. Why must you do this? Because first, government must intervene when there's those spends that are very, very obvious that we have seen. Every country does this. Every country has some form of subsidy that is transparent. They call it in different ways. When the trouble became enormous during the high prices last year, many Western countries, what they did was they reduced tax rates or they eliminated taxes. You can call it anything, but it will still sum up to subsidy, but it is controlled, but you still have an even single market for the product, and it's still market determined. And therefore, deregulation of this sector will literally mean to growth in other related sectors, particularly in alternative fuels that we are trying to build today. And there's no way you can talk about refining domestic refining increase, changing the balance so that this country becomes a net exporter of petroleum without resolving the pricing differential. And that is what deregulation has done to our country. It will create more works, and we have already started seeing a number of companies going back to their construction sites, working on their refinery, small scale, yes, but people are now have a line of sight that they can sell at market and they can recover their cost. So as you do this, you must be conscious of the efforts that are being made around gas. And today, and I need to share this with you, globally, financing for oil and gas projects is very, very challenging. A number of issues around climate change that has made banks to be resistant to issuing financing to oil and gas infrastructure. And that's the conversation that is going on of an inclusive and a just energy transition, such a way that countries like ours, put are resource dependent, can be protected. We can use the resource of today to build the infrastructure of tomorrow, create the prosperity that everybody needs, so that ultimately there will be a just response to the climate change issues. And that is why in our country today, we are seeing, and the world has also adopted gas as a transition fuel. And that means, we will see funding into gas. We are doing it on our cash flow today. Companies are engaging, partners are coming up looking for gas, and of course, as you do this, it is also part of the benefits of the regulation. And that is why people are saying that, look, I can create gas, it can be a little more expensive than what it is today, but I can make money from it. Otherwise, when people see cheap PMS, there is no way you can even have growth in the gas sector. They are all connected. And therefore, for our country, what we need today is to readjust our realities. And what are those realities? Transportation must be shifted towards other energy sources, particularly for mass transportation. That means, we must do everything possible to bring to reality the current progress that is being made on CNG buses across the country, and also converting vehicles to CNG driven. And this is an enormous enterprise. It is ongoing, it is hugely supported by government, and we are seeing line of sight, and this will crystallize. So as you resolve this, you also know that we are a resource-dependent country. Today, we export 100% of our production. No resource-dependent country does this. And that is why, yes, we must deliver on our mandate. I don't want to speak about it. When it is done, you will see it. So I don't want to tell you we are going to revamp our refinery. That is too much of PowerPoint talk. So it will be done, and you will see it. So I don't want to speak about it, so that we are tired of speaking about it. But what we must achieve is that this country must be a next exporter of petroleum products. And this is within sight. I strongly believe, now without giving you dates so that people don't get angry again, that in 2024, this country will become a net exporter of petroleum products. The meaning of this is that you will have sufficient volumes in country, and that you will have a delta that can leave our country. And that is where value is created. That value is created. And I need to also create one very, very erroneous impression always. When you refine locally, yes, you do have advantages, creating wealth, creating PRCN, taxes, and all forms of value, creating employment, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to pricing of the petroleum product itself, it is the international market that prices it. So you can't price it in your local, you have to move, Dr. Conwell, I'm sure he's going to speak about it. You cannot price it in your local currency and then convert it into international. It's the other way around. Until something is done about, I know there are a number of global conversations going on about pricing everything in your local currency. Yes, I agree, but we're not there today. That means that the pricing of petroleum motor spirit or any other product is a conversion of that value in the international markets versus what you sell in your country. And today, for every refinery, 70% of your operating cost is a cost of feedstock. That means you are pricing 70% of your input in the international. That you have no control over 70% of the price of the PMS you see in any fuel station in any country today. That means it's the optimization of the 30% of the input, personnel cost, shipping, and so on and so forth. Even shipping itself is determined by the international market. So at the end, you are probably controlling only 10 to 15% of the cost of PMS in country. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when you have total in-country refining, the price of petroleum product will come down to half. It is not possible, it is not practical. I've seen a lot of offensive media conversations that once you do start refining today, instead of 600, you will sell at 200. I'm sure many of you have come across it, but that's not practical. It is not reality, but to surely have an impact on the pricing of petroleum product in country, more than anything, it guarantees you energy security. That's the most important thing. Every country looks for that. When I need this product, I will get it. Today, if you have any dislocation of supply, it takes minimum of 14 days for product to come from Europe into our country. The closest location, probably 12 days. That's the closest we have. So once you have disruption for any reason, for 3 to 4 days, you will surely see the impact of that in the supply chain, and you will see queues coming up. That's what we manage. Our endurance today is very weak. Maybe 3 days endurance. That anything that happens that has impact more than 3 days, you will see it in the fuel station. For instance, what you are seeing, pockets of it, they are going away. What caused it? A few marketers decided, because remember, that's what the market does. You go to the bank and collect 3 billion naira, for instance, to buy product from NNPC, and the sales are very slow. So the cost of keeping that product in your tank means that, as long as the value you get does not exceed the bank lending rate, then you'll be losing money. So it's better for you to sell down by 2-3 naira so that you can actually settle the bank, and then your loss is now minimized. So marketing companies started competing against you, bringing down prices. And then people start jumping to the fuel station that has brought down by 3 naira and so on, and before you know it, you have an issue. And secondly, you have the issue of transportation. The cost of AGO goes up because it is the oil marketing companies are bringing it to the country. We are the only difference because we are the only company importing PMS into the country. None of them can do it today. That means that we can manage the market situation without creating any subsidy environment. But for them, access to foreign exchange is different. We have access to exchange. We create FX. Therefore, we have access to FX. And their access to FX is limited. And that means that, they have to put any price hedge for the future so that they don't lose money tomorrow. They can go back to the market in 2 months, 3 months' time. And that's why you are seeing the 900 naira AGO pricing, which is an add-on to the cost of PMS, if you do. Because once that price keeps going up, the transporting companies or the transporters will not be able to meet those requirements, and therefore they will jack up the cost of the transportation, and it will have impact on PMS. Definitely. So once you have that impact, companies say, look, show me where I'm going to get back this money if I can't adjust the price, and I can't do it because NNPC is not adjusting. You must have seen this conversation. And we're attending to this, and we don't see any challenge doing this. But this is what we're happy market is adjusting itself. Market adjustment is what we are seeing today, and it is very good for our country so that the market forces take control, but while government does its own role of making sure that palliatives are made available. Many things are going on, and I'm happy Comrade President is here and is aware of what is going on. Overall, for our country, we must be next exporter of petroleum product in 2024. And this needs everybody's support. First of all, we have to focus on gas as a transportation fuel. This is very practical. Already significant activities are going on. Government is putting money into it. NNPC is investing with partners. And we believe that in 2024, that revolution will become very, very manifest, and people will have access to quick and cleaner and cheaper fuel in 2024 as we go on. It's already happening. A number of buses are converted. A number of state governments have bought buses that are running on CNG. We are carrying out significant projects that will bring CNG into the market with our partners, and we believe that this will work for our country. And of course, as you do this, energy is everything. The only sustainable source of energy that we can have today, in our context today, is to build our gas resources. And that is why we are focused as a company, both as a business and also, the Distinguished Senator is here, the law said that NNPC must guarantee energy security for the country. So not doing it is a breach of the law. And therefore, we are focused on delivering the necessary infrastructure that will deliver gas into the domestic market. And we're almost done. I don't want to put this also. So once there's what is called the OB3 river crossing, that's a 48-inch pipe line that once it crosses the river Niger, we have a clear line of sight. I don't also want to give you dates. But once it is done, this will be the gas revolution for our country. It will enable delivery of gas from the eastern corridors to the western corridors, link up the AKK pipeline, and also the bottleneck supply to the east. And without doing this, you can't do anything, and we're almost done. Once that is done, people will have access to gas closest to them, CNG, compressor stations close to you, and ultimately you will see that spark of gas revolution happening in our country, creating new gas-based industries, creating new employments, and perhaps also making people have access to the cheaper fuel, even for their domestic cooking needs. And this is the revolution this country is going through. This is the vision of the president, and it is deliverable. In 2024, I'm sure that you will see those massive changes that will naturally happen. And overall, what does this mean to Nigerian people? I think this is what's important. You're creating prosperity. Once you create prosperity, it's for everybody. Yes, comrade, I understand. It's a prosperity for us. Yes, I agree. But you must also remember that we must create prosperity for everybody. And gas revolution will create that prosperity for everybody, which includes all of us in PENGASSAN and overall labor centers in the country. And this is good for our country. And as we do this, understanding engagements are very necessary. I know the number of engagements that are taking place between labor and government to ensure that we all understand where we are going. We all need to collaborate and cooperate, and so that ultimately the workers will benefit. They share no pains. We all share the pains, but we don't leave the burden on only one set of people. And this is work in progress. This is what a vision of a sustainable energy environment will create, and what it will do ultimately, it will create prosperity. And of course, all the talks around climate change, we all agree our business contributes to climate issues, no doubt about it. And we are not competing with the rest of the world. The whole of sub-Saharan Africa, or Africa itself, contributes only 3% of the greenhouse gases. We understand this. We are not doing a catch-up. But today, we do need a just transition. We need to have sustainable energy that is anchored on the resources that is available to us today, which is the huge gas resources we have, so that we have the replacement fuel for biomass. And ultimately, yes, we can go to the solar, but today you have a resource that you can easily use. And we're also building the solar. We're not abandoning it, but the reality is that we have resources that is available to us that we can use, and this will be the great vision for our country. Thank you very much.
Please, can we clap for the comrade himself, the group CEO, NNPC Limited, Mele Kyari. Thank you very much for that insight and that keynote address. The President of PENGASSAN, we have Senator Sukwa Ikpenyong, Chairman, Senate Committee on NDDC. He is here with us. Please, a round of applause for him, please. You're welcome, sir. Dolapo Okulaja Kotun is the ex-director, Igwe Ona Refinery, Vice Chairman of Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria. She is here with us. A round of applause for her. You're welcome. Mr. President, we are taking the opening remarks from the representative of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Simon Tungju, that is here. Let him come and give us the remarks before we go into the panel discussion. A round of applause for him as he comes up, please.
The President of PENGASSAN, Comrade Engineer Festus Osifo, the Senate President, ably represented by Senator Agom, Jaribe, the GCEO, of the NNPC, Mr. Mele Kyari, other companies, chief executives, and comrades in the House, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I send you warm felicitations from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator Dr. George Akume, and to let you know that Senator George Akume takes issues of PENGASSAN very seriously, but for the exigencies of his office, he's not here this morning. He has directed that I represent him at this auspicious event. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to take his speech. I have the great pleasure and a sense of shared responsibility that I welcome you all to this all-important edition of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, Labour and Energy Summit, with the theme, Petroleum Downstream Deregulation and Gas Utilization for a Sustainable Energy Future in Nigeria. Permit me to begin by extending the warmest regards and best wishes of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Your presence here today, as a matter of fact, underscores the collective commitment to progress and reshaping the energy landscape of our great nation. I am particularly pleased to heartily commend you, the leadership, members, and critical stakeholders of this reputable association for your determination and uncommon efforts towards the development of our oil and gas sector. Your dedication and hard work are exemplary. As the saying goes, you are the goose that lay the golden eggs. As we gather here today at a moment of transformative potential for Nigeria's energy sector, the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act is another testament to government's commitment to laying a foundation that redefines investment in oil and gas, ensuring increased transparency and accountability with a view to stimulating growth and sustainability for prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are already aware, within this short period in office, this administration has recorded remarkable progress in virtually all the key sectors of our national life. This is not surprising, taking cognizance of our dear President's wealth of experience in both the public and private sectors, as well as an unalloyed desire for a united, peaceful, and prosperous Nigeria. It is pertinent to note that the President's ability to secure several key partnership agreements for Nigeria at the just concluded 18th G20 Leaders Summit and United Nations General Assembly, where he strongly advocated for a global unity, peace, and cooperation in addressing pressing challenges, has further demonstrated his determination to revive the Nigerian economy, which is strategic to the growth and development of not just Nigeria, but Africa at large. As also we are aware, our nation is at a critical stage in the journey towards energy evolution and the utilization of petroleum downstream deregulation and gas development, which is of great importance. It is therefore apposite to further note that the federal government is committed to formulating and implementing policies that ensure a balanced, inclusive, and progressive energy transition while addressing the multifaceted needs of our growing populace. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to use this opportunity to sincerely commend the investors, international oil companies, national oil companies, as well as the private sector players for your pivotal roles over the years. The dynamism and resilience you have shown are catalysts for the progress we are witnessing today. In the spirit of collaboration, we extend an open invitation for increased foreign direct investment, assuring prospective investors of a conducive environment and policies that support innovation and growth. At this juncture, may I reassure all of the federal government's robust plans for the downstream sector, especially in the key areas of infrastructural development, promoting healthy competition, refining regulatory frameworks, and augment private sector participation. These initiatives are geared towards driving efficiency, reducing costs, and ensuring the well-being and prosperity of the citizens of this great country. Furthermore, kindly note that our commitment to harnessing gas as a cleaner and more sustainable source of energy remains unwavering. We are resolved to expand our gas infrastructure, facilitate investment, and explore novel opportunities for gas to power our industries, homes, and also fortify our nation's energy security. Dear friends and colleagues, let's not forget the invaluable contributions of our oil and gas workers who are integral to the success of our energy sector. Their commitment and expertise are the cornerstones upon which the foundations of our sustainable energy future are being laid. To all stakeholders here present, your insights and partnership are essential in navigating the intricate landscape of the energy sector and realizing our shared aspirations. I am optimistic that together we can surmount the challenges and capitalize on the opportunities that lie ahead. In conclusion, I warmly welcome you to the vibrant city of Abuja and assure you of a hitch-free, enlightening session filled with constructive discussions and innovative resolutions. Let us, therefore, collaboratively strive towards crafting a sustainable and prosperous energy future for our beloved country, Nigeria. Thank you for listening. I wish you fruitful deliberations, and God bless.
Please, can we continue to clap for him as he goes back to his seat? I was a representative of the Secretary to Government of the Federation. Thank you so much for your remarks. The President of PENGASSAN and the convener of this summit, we are going into item number 7, and that is the panel of discussion on fuel subsidy removal, balancing national economic realities and social impact. To handle this section for us is the one-time Secretary of Lagos Zone, a one-time Branch Secretary of Mobile Producing Nigeria Branch, a one-time National Public Relations Officer of PENGASSAN worldwide. He is now currently the branch chairman of PENGASSAN Mobile Producing Branch. Let's welcome Comrade Anietie Udo to take over the stage and to handle this for us. A round of applause for him as he comes up.
Great PENGASSAN. It's always interesting to be among or in the midst of the energy juggernauts, the ones that are the mainstay of the economy of this country. You're all welcome. Today we are going to have a discussion, panel discussion, and before I go into it, I would like to invite the panelists up here. On my list, I have Ide Owodion. Please, let's clap as they come up. I have our own, his comrade, Peter Esele, our PG, please. I have Yusuf Lawan. Please, let's keep clapping as they come up. Frank Esainobi, I've not seen him this morning. Do we have him in the house? Our own comrade, Frank Esainobi. I have here my own comrade, very personal person, Razak Obey. Please, come on. Before I take my seat, you're all welcome to PENGASSAN Energy and Labour Summit, Christian Pills 2023, with the theme, Petroleum Downstream Deregulation and Gas Utilization. We are going to discuss this morning as a panel the topic, Fuel Subsidy Removal, Balancing Economic Realities and Social Impact. My name is Aniete Udor, and I'll be your host. Up here we have 4 erudite experts, and they are here to give their insight and their expertise on this topic. I would like them to introduce themselves and tell us their field of profession and how it ties into the discourse of today. Comrades, I'll call you comrades, because for you to be here, you have PENGASSAN at your heart, and you spent your time to come here and present your experts to us. Please, I'll start with my own comrade. Ide, tell us about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ide Owodion Demako. I am currently managing partner for William Sene Consult. I used to work for ExxonMobil for 30 years, 5 months, retired last year. And my experience spans human resources, security, venture relations, and external relations. Good to be here.
My name is Peter Esele. I'm a former president of PENGASSAN and also former president of Trade Union Congress. Thank you.
My name is Yusuf Lawal Othman. I'm the national president of Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO.
Good morning, ladies and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Razak Ube, Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources in the government of Ondo State. Prior to that time, I was also in ExxonMobil. I'm a petroleum engineer by training, and I believe in the future of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and you're all welcome. We all know the petroleum deregulation. One of the actions that has happened recently has been the removal of fuel subsidy. And we know how it has impacted and affected us so far. To kick off this discussion, I will start by asking Ide Owodion, how does the fuel removal impact our fiscal policies, our national budget, and its implementation? We all have idea of the background of how this has happened, but those impact on the fiscal policies, our budget that is on ground already, and its implementation. Thank you, Owodion.
Well, I think it was quite instructive, the presentation that was made by the Group CEO of NNPC, where we got to know that even the money that was provided in the budget, over 3 trillion, which was meant to subsidize fuel for this year, was not money that was even available. And so I think that the steps that have been taken, of course, is also very, very instructive when you look at the fact that we didn't even have this in the budget, and so where were we going to get the money from to be able to fund the subsidy? Now, beyond that, we have to also look at the immediate impact that it has had in terms of, increasing inflation, increasing the poverty levels and hardship of those workers in the economy, increasing, of course, the income inequalities between the various segments of the society. So all of this are things that we know are things that we have to deal with in the temporary, and then take a much more strategic approach towards how we can reap the benefits of subsidy withdrawal in the long term.
Thank you very much, Ide. We can hear this was money that was not available in the first place, and it has had an effect of increased inflation, income inequality, and so on. I will switch to newcomer Peter Isele. Can you shed some light on the effect of this subsidy removal on the average citizen, low-income businesses that are transportation-driven? In essence, how does it affect the average man on the street, the impact, both the intended and unintended impact? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, we have to go back to the address by the CEO of NNPC Limited, and then you look at what we're to discuss is balancing national economic realities and social impact. First thing we ask ourselves is that we have moved beyond whether to remove subsidy or not to remove subsidy. So what are the impacts on Nigerians? First is the cost of living, galloping inflation, and then you also look at the wages. If you look at our earning, what workers earn now, compared to, I'll give an example. If in 2011, you were earning 18,000 naira, which was the minimum wage at that time, your 18,000 naira comes up to about $120 a month. Then you now start earning, minimum wage is about 30,000 naira. In terms of hearing the figures, 30,000 naira is more than 18,000 naira. But your 30,000 naira equivalent is actually $30. So your 18,000 naira was 120, your 30,000 naira is $30. So what you have is that your purchasing power has been reduced by more than 50%. So what is my expectation of government? Is that government need to look at the area of transportation. The average Nigerian worker spends about 70% of his earnings right now on transportation. So first thing I would have expected was, while subsidy removal has been carried out, but my expectation would have been we have the framework, the structure to make sure that these shocks that will come to the ordinary Nigerians are mitigated. And one of the ways you do that is by ensuring that subsidy now goes to the area of transportation. And I'm happy with everything that the CEO of NNPC Limited have spoken about. It's a lofty dreams, and I hope that we follow through. Because one of the biggest challenges we've had over time is that theoretically, we are a first world country. In terms of policy design, Nigeria can stand in front of any country in the world. But we lack the discipline to follow through. So if we can go ahead with that discipline to follow through, then we can say this hardship will be for a while, and then tomorrow will be better. But if we don't do that, the hardship is going to be there. So what are the likely areas that I will expect government to do? We have to have wage renewal, or we have to have wage increase. I'm aware that they are discussing the new minimum wage. But wage increase should not be the only panacea to a lot of these problems, because the organized labor in Nigeria is less than 10% of generality of Nigerians who are working. So we need to also factor in the other Nigerians and their benefit. The way they can benefit, it has to do with transportation. Then the second aspect is that we also need to look at the other parts of life, what I would call the soft aspect of it: healthcare, education. So I'm happy the president of TUC is here, the secretary general of TUC is also here, so that when you are negotiating, you also have to factor that in. You have to look at the healthcare, you have to look at education, you have to look at other aspects of our life that government can also look at. Subsidy is back. Subsidy is gone, but also subsidy is back. Yes. If we are actually going to pay the actual amount, we should not be paying 600 naira. We all know that when we started paying 600 naira, the price of crude was less than $80 per barrel. Right now, the price of crude hit 3 weeks ago was about 90 something. It's at about $89 now. So invariably, for us to be paying what we are paying, somebody somewhere somehow is subsidizing. And that invariably means the government is paying a part of subsidy for us to be paying what we are paying. So it's left for those in government to put on their thinking cap to know that if you really want to bury subsidy, we must think deeper. Because the people government was made by the people and not the people for government. As I used to say, I would say, the people can survive without government, but government cannot survive without the people. The legitimacy of the government depends on the people. Therefore, the welfare of the people should be paramount to any government in power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Key in what we've heard has been wage value erosion due to this subsidy removal. Other things he touched on was need for mitigations like transportation, healthcare, education, and in other aspects of our lives. And he closed by letting us know that we are yet to see total subsidy. That means even if there's subsidy removal, to an extent, there is subsidy somewhere. Before we proceed, I will hand over to the MC to make some announcement before the next speaker talks to us.
Thank you very much. The president of PENGASSAN and the convener, we want to pause. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we want to pause on the panel discussion. They are still going to be there. Just at the commencement of this panel discussion, we had the Honorable Minister of Labour walked in. Due to his tight schedule, he may not be here till the end of the discussion. So we're going to break for that discussion and take his remarks before he leaves. Please, let's welcome the Honorable Minister for Labour and Employment of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Right Honorable Simon Lalong, CON, to the podium for his opening remarks. A round of applause for him, please, as he comes up here. Please, let's clap until he gets here. You're welcome, sir.
First, let me apologize for coming late. You know my work. There is no protocol. I was rushing to come for my friends for this occasion when I was blocked by Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers. They are all part of your people. But I thank God I was able to handle them, and I am here. The president of the PENGASSAN, my dear friend, Comrade Engineer Festus Osifo. I don't want to call you my friend, but until we finish the negotiation. The representative of the Senate President, Distinguished Senator Agom Jarigbe. The representative of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mrs. Simon Yongu. The GCO NNPC Limited, my good friend and brother, Mr. Mele Kyari. Other company chief executives and comrades in the House. It is my delight and privilege to be in your midst as a guest of honor on this second edition of your Energy and Labor Summit, PEARS 2023. starting today in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Abuja. I am deeply honored to extend my warmest greetings to the Comrade President, Comrade Festus Osifo, who also doubles as the President of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, GUC, other executives and all members of your esteemed association. I am particularly happy because your invitation affords me the opportunity to fraternize with your members who have gathered here from all over the country for this very all-important meeting, because this is my first time of meeting with you since I assumed office as Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment. I therefore wish to congratulate the executive of your union on their wisdom and vision in coming together to organize this year's editions of PERS with the objectives of celebrating the nation's oil and gas industry and to access the progress made so far. This is therefore my historic and timely as it will. This is therefore very historic and timely, as it will also provide the platform for the invited professionals, policymakers, and stakeholders to discuss the various challenges and opportunities that come with the deregulation of the petroleum industry and increasing focus on gas utilization for sustainable energy production in our country. This is highly commendable, and it is my hope that it will be sustained in the years ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, our rich endowment of petroleum resources has long been the lifeblood of our national economy. However, as we stand at the crossroads of energy transition and calls for greener sources of energy, it is imperative that we come together to chart a new course in view of the fact that the deregulation of the petroleum industry and promotion of gas utilization are not merely policy changes, but are transformative steps towards a greener, more resilient, eco-friendly, and economically prosperous Nigeria for all. This occasion, therefore, represents a pivotal moment in our nation's journey to the brighter and more sustainable energy future. Fellow comrades, in the spirit of unity and progress that define our great nation, let us use this summit as a platform to exchange ideas, share knowledge, and forge partnerships that will accelerate the development of our energy sector. We must seize this opportunity to deliberate on innovative strategies, technological advancements, eco-friendlier alternatives, additions in our energy value chains, and regulatory frameworks that will ensure sustainable energy production and utilization for generations to come. I am confident that with our collective wisdom and determination, we can unlock the vast potential of our petroleum and the gas resources to power Nigeria's sustainable energy future. Let us therefore work together to create a more prosperous, environmentally conscious Nigeria. The renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a comprehensive plan to revolutionize the oil and gas sector and make it serve the Nigerian people optimally. This explains why the President has created the Ministry for Gas and Petroleum as distinct entities for closer engagement by ministers who are very knowledgeable about the industry. I urge the PENGASSAN and indeed our stakeholders in the sector to give full support to the government so that the common man will enjoy the benefits of oil and gas, which God has blessed our nation with in abundance. Let me also use this opportunity to assure Nigerian workers and all Nigerians that the Tinubu administration will continue to implement measures that will address challenges arising from the reform of the oil and gas sector, including the removal of subsidy. Apart from the wage award of 35,000 and the procurement of CNG-powered buses, the President has directed that we carry out that we carry out engagements towards review of the minimum wage, which will be due next year. You can see why I am confident when it comes to that. Thank you. Because when I came to that, Comrade Osifo was looking at me. What was? All these and other measures will guarantee industrial harmony and prosperity to our nation. I congratulate you for this event, and I wish you the very best. God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please, let's clap for him. Let's clap for the Honorable Minister for Labor and Employment, His Excellency Right Honorable Simon Lalong, CON. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And we know that very soon there will be that great synergy between your ministry and labor. Thank you very much. President, I hereby hand over to the head of the panel discussion to continue with that session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead to talk, give the discussion to the third speaker. He is the National President of the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners. The second speaker talked about some of the impacts, and one chief among what he mentioned was transportation. So, Sir Yusuf, I would like to ask, what's the social impact of this subsidy removal on transportation, your financiers, infrastructures available? How does it affect the common man on the street? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. As the Petroleum Industry Act was into place and subsidy removed, meaning that the market forces, of course, will determine the price of petroleum product, that is talking about PMS, as well as even the transportation of the PMS. So prior to the full deregulation, on the average, transporters move about 50,000 trucks per month, including PMS, AGO, and other petroleum products. By the end of June, we came down to 45,000. July, we came back to 40,000. August, we came down to 35,000. As of today, the average is about 30,000, meaning that something has taken place, just like the Group Chief Executive explained. The consumption pattern, for whatever reason, anyway, has come down, and the reality is coming in place. Now, there are a lot of factors, of course, that were into play. Probably the financial capacity of the consumers, the appetite to export illegally is no more there because price is probably at par. Even if it is not at par, the risk factors and whatever, and the financial capacity even of the marketers, some of the marketers of the petroleum products, some small capacity marketers could not afford to put huge amount of money into their tank and wait for 30, 40, 50, 60 days before they evacuate, so, and because of the cost of funds. And so many other, alternatives or decisions taken by families. I understand even here in Abuja, there are some families that hitherto were using their vehicles differently, but now they have found an effective way of using a vehicle. You go and drop me in my office, then I'll go and pick you. So there are a lot of changes that made the situation to be different and more effective. Of course, there are a lot of, effects as regards to the owners. Of course, for us, prior to this, you have a truck, probably you optimize the truck maybe 2-3 trips per month. Now probably one trip. So of course there are effects on the utilization of the vehicle and probably effects on the financier of the vehicle because you may not be able to meet up. But all the same, in the long run, naturally in every facet of life there are teething problems. But in the long run, of course, would expect that the other factors, if necessary changes are made, will cover for what we eventually would have lost in this area. At the same time, of course, it's not only the transporters. From what we've learned and what we've seen, there are so many other supporting businesses, people that construct tanks for us, people that do sell tires to us, and so many others. Because of this development, they are more or less also out of business. But you know, just like in the 70s, early 70s, although I was a very young person then, we've heard that somewhere in this country, a lot of pyramids of groundnuts, cottons, and whatever were in place, and they developed the economy. But because of the advent of fuel, everybody stopped and moved to fuel. So probably with this change, so many people would, reality will set in, and so many people will go back to reality. So as much as we see it as an adverse effect on the current operators, in the long run there are other. And if you look at it, in the last few months prior to the regulation, you will see that the Federal Allocation Committee were distributing about 500, 600 billion per month. As of today, I can understand the last month, about 1.something trillion was distributed across the states, meaning that something has been saved and something has been transferred to the states. And we do hope that, of course, such saving that has been transferred to the state will be used meaningfully for the development of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've alluded that there has been reduction in number of trucks from 50 all the way to about 30,000. There's reduced commuting, increase in cost of commuting, and if other factors come in play, things would stabilize. Other factors we hear subsequently is development of other sectors.
Let me also continue on. Let me also say it here that just like the Group Chief Executive said, we have no option than to move to the CNG, because going by the records, if you Google now, compare the cost of consumption of a truck 100 kilometers per with diesel vis-a-vis CNG, you will observe that there is a savings about 30 to 50%. However, transporters and financiers will have to look at the cost of combustion of what we currently use from the diesel to the CNG. But if such is in place, I guarantee, if you check online, Google, you will see that there is a savings of 30 to 50%. So which is also a very good development.
And lastly, you're talking about the alternate source of power in our vehicles. Okay, for time's sake, I will move to the fourth speaker, Honorable Commissioner. I will ask you, considering how the removal came to be abruptly, the actions and inactions of government to immediately provide mitigations, how has all this impacted the perception and trust of the public on the government?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say there is no birth without blood. However, you remove subsidy, there will be abrasion. We can't say it was abrupt because this conversation has been on since, well, maybe 1993, the first time the then military president attempted to remove subsidy. It's always been a recurrent decimal. What I observed is poor communication. If you want to do something so deep that affects almost everyone, there should be a task for the National Orientation Agency. If the military could conduct those campaigns during Mansa days, why shouldn't you go to the villages and tell them that in a single year, 2022, we paid $9.7 billion as subsidies. That is the budget of 35 states of the country, only Lagos out of it combined. If you have your entire budget, you perform 100%. And we know that budget performance by sub-national governments in Nigeria is approximately about between 50 to 70%. Only some best of them, some that are tagged the best of them, do up to 80%. Now imagine all of the funds you provision for in a year for 35 states expended on just one commodity. it doesn't make sense to continue in that direction. So people will always react, but what they should be asking are the right questions. Does the government have the data to actually intervene? The answer is no. Up to now, we don't have the data. When we discuss minimum wage, for whom? Just a tiny fraction of the population called Nigerians you are dealing with when you are mentioning minimum wage. The rest don't earn any minimum wage. And we also know that even when the subsidy was paid on PMS, that about 40% of the poor, of the population, the poorest, they only access 3% of the so-called subsidy. So from day one, they have been shortchanged. Now the question they should be asking is that, are they included? Do we have any repository where we can just pick the people who are called the so-called poor we are reaching out to? The government doesn't have it. I'm happy with what the Minister of Humanitarian began some days ago by first of all saying, let's interrogate what forms this basis of this social intervention. When those things are put together and the best organizations are asked to come and create some unimpeachable database that will have people's fingerprints, you realize that the way they said consumption has plummeted by nearly 30%, you also realize that people, the so-called people who are getting the social intervention, the data is going to change dramatically because the real poor people aren't getting this. When you go to the communities, who are the people partaking? You can't find them. And this is where the labor centers come in. We can be like the center point, the pivot, through which government can intervene in a way that will reach the average people, that those people who are partaking can actually be identified. Having said that, transportation has been mentioned. We cannot just speak about it without doing something. That's not rocket science. And we shouldn't go to China to solve our transportation problem. Let's go to Innocent. Give them the billions, like American government has consistently and repeatedly done. Give Innocent billions of naira. Tell them the buses you want to see the next 1 year, you pay them today, they manufacture for the next 3-4 years. And all these vehicles, they will all be CNG equipped automobile. By the time you have that, then you now subsidize. Instead of just saying, I'm a state government, I'm giving buses. You know after some years that will not work. Why not tap into organizations, the vehicle owners, like my panelist seated next to me, call them and say, bring 30% of the cost, I'm going to give you the vehicle. And over time you pay. You realize that bus system will become revolutionized in Nigeria. Many people who go to work don't need to transport by driving their own vehicles to work. They have to do so because they don't have an alternative. If everyone who works for a government, from the local to state to federal government, have vehicles waiting for them, and we have policies that compel private organizations, companies, to also have vehicles to transport their workers, you realize that our pressure on PMS is going to come down significantly. So these are among the things that are worrying the ordinary people who vent by just saying we don't want subsidy, or they don't even know what subsidy is. But if you tell someone that is going to have diabetes if you continue to consume rice, you'll be shocked that the following morning the person will be reluctant to eat rice. If you tell someone as well that you'll be sequestering the future of your children on PMS, they will tell you take the subsidy away. Let's eat our frog right now and let's pay the price to make a change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. He has succinctly put it. One of the issues has been poor communication, and what that would have done is to get the citizenry ready, understand what to expect and the effects, whether planned for or otherwise. Another one has been the data availability in even implementing some of these. Implementation and accountability of the social intervention. I mean, we need data to do that. And also, chief among what he has mentioned in my own head is development of local competence in profiling some of these solutions. Instead of going out, we look inwards and develop what we have. I will want to give 2 minutes each to everybody going around again. Let's talk about what could we have done differently. What should the government do for mitigation? So, Ide, I will ask you, what are the social repercussions that subsidy has brought to us? And especially for the low-income earners and the small-scale businesses, within their sphere, what could they have done? What can they do both presently and looking forward, to better position them for the impact of this decision?
Well, clearly, it's obvious that subsidy had denied the nation of money that would have been put in other significant areas of investment, you know. And I've heard us talk about, oh, well, maybe we need to have a wage increase and all of that. But it's incumbent for us to take a look at that kind of solution where you're just throwing money at problems. I think the government needs to spend some time looking again back to what Razak just said about data. If you look at 10 years data, 2010 to 2020, we spent about close to about $40 billion on foreign exchange for education and healthcare. I think health was about 11 billion. Now, this is something that I think the government should focus on. If we take the money that we're going to take out of subsidy and reinvest it in the significant upgrade of our education facilities, the quality of learning in our tertiary institutions, secondary schools, and primary school, you're going to save significant amount of money and reduce the pressure on foreign exchange. The same for healthcare. And of course, education and healthcare are those areas where you can equalize the existing gaps and inequalities within the social categories and social classes in the country. Right now, I'm sure many of us in this room are the beneficiaries of that, where we send our children abroad to go and study because we are worried about the quality of education in the country. But if we take 28 billion that we spent over the last 10 years, I mean, last year I think we spent about 10 months data for last year was about 1.3 billion foreign exchange on education. If we put that back into our university system and upgrade our educational system, that would provide access to education for low-income people and also middle-class and high-income people studying here in Nigeria. Last year we spent close to about 2 trillion naira on food imports. That is an area where we will have significant impact on low-income earners if we can get our agricultural system working. Imagine what was going to happen if you keeping that money. 2 trillion is not going outside, but it's here in Nigeria to develop agriculture. Food will be cheap, and of course the challenges that we're facing on inflation, etc., and poverty would be addressed. And of course, the other one, of course, what we've talked about a lot about transportation, investment in transportation. So those are the 4 areas I think the government needs to spend more time on: healthcare, education, transportation, and agriculture. That would help us reap the benefits of this subsidy withdrawal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've summarized the 4 areas where both government and individuals can position themselves to take advantage, develop themselves such that it will have a mitigating effect on them and will better position them for this impact. Now we'll move on to our comrade Peter Esele. Nigeria has a national energy and energy efficiency policy. With this, we had the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan. And for an average Nigerian, if we know what this is, and Esele, tell us, how does this subsidy removal tie into this action plan? What are the benefits? If not, how can this be tied into it such that it now gives us a good benefit because we have this action plan already before the subsidy removal came to be? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The plan is fantastic on the paper, just like I told you earlier. But the first thing we need to do is that we need to identify our area of strength. All our attention is always on crude oil, yes, but Nigeria is more of a gas country. And then we are coming under pressure from the civilized world, from the West, talking about climate change and what have you. And the GMB just alluded to the fact that 3% of greenhouse is what Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa is contributing. So we put our attention on gas, and then the government should build gas infrastructure, and government can't do it all alone. How do you also encourage private investors? By making the environment conducive for private investors to come in and invest. Because if you don't make the environment conducive, nobody is bringing their money. Now, the president of PENGASSAN in his speech also alluded to the fact that a lot of IOCs are divesting. The reason why they are divesting is also the fact that the security of the pipeline are also not guaranteed. So if people don't have that faith that, one, your laws will guarantee them the opportunity for them to make money, and then your judiciary should also be there to guarantee them that if there are any need for arbitration, that they will get justice. And then thirdly, the government must also ensure that the banks are there to finance it. You know, you want to set up a business, and the next thing you go to the bank and they're telling you 25-30%. No economy can grow when you are paying 25-30%. So what you have is that you are going to be inviting people from outside to come and develop your economy. And let's be frank, nobody will develop your economy for you. Development of any economy is inward. If you go back memory lane, the Japanese economy was first of all developed by the Japanese before support will come from outside. So we need to encourage local indigenous companies to invest in that sector by making sure that they get soft loans that will make it easier for them to actually come into that sector. And that sector is dollarized sector. And once people know that, yes, they can get soft loan from the government, from the banks, it makes it easier for them to invest. Let me just go back to something Razak said. He talked about minimum wage. Minimum wage is how a society defines how the lowest will live by. So even in America, it's decided this is how much you must pay. You can earn more, but as the name goes, it's minimum, or you can pay maximum wage, depending upon how you look at it. And the key here is, how do we also reduce our pressure on FX? If we allow investment in that sector, there will be less pressure on FX, and we would have less pressure that we go through on a daily basis. An example, I'll give another analogy. Okay, I'll give another analogy. If actually we are exporting petroleum product, if we are exporting petroleum product, we will not be talking about looking at $10 billion or having local companies now going to the parallel market to source for dollars. The GMD of NNPC also in its address, which I took note of, is that right now we are talking about national plan and we are talking about deregulation. When you remove subsidy, the plan was to deregulate that sector. So what I can confidently say, what we have now is partial deregulation again, because if the NNPC is the only one importing products, then that is not a complete deregulation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are pressed for time. This is a topic that we can go on and on. I would like our comrade Yusuf to give final thoughts to this discussion. But before that, I can't help, given Razak Ube, and it's important for him to talk to us. What do you think about the economic gains potentially vis-a-vis social consequence as it has been discussed here? And looking at that, what are other policies or alternatives that could or we can implement so that we harness the economic impact while balancing or mitigating the social impacts as enumerated here? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, the closer government to the people are the state governments. Serving the state government, I can tell you firsthand that before now, you had limited resources coming. That will impact your ability to control roads, to provide hospitals, to even intervene in areas of healthcare and other areas. Now that you have subsidy funds coming in, the allocations to states are going up, and by implication, the size of what you can administer will change, and there is no way in no time people will begin to see the impact of subsidy removal. Let me clarify, the campaign I mentioned was not adequate. Of course, you realize that this government removed subsidy the very minute it was sworn in. So it's not the blame of this government, but we can build on this and let people understand more. And for the poor who are the receiving end, when I say minimum wage, I don't intend to assume that you can use that as a, let's say, as a template to understand the downtrodden, the lowest paid person in society. But where we should focus on is formalizing the so-called informal sectors. I mentioned data. If you say the informal, why is it that it's only in Nigeria you have the overwhelming majority as informal? What changes? The next population census, which has been paused by the government, let it come with key data that in the next 30 to 40 years will continue to have reference points. People's fingerprints could be taken. Once taken, you know them forever. And the children that are born, we should get their data as they are being born as well. If you don't have this, you have vacuums through which massive corruptions will continue to flourish. But when you get the data, you can directly engage and reach the people you need to do. So flipping the informal, the so-called informal sector to formal sectors will go a long way. And what can we do going forward? First, the people who are impacted should know that we are on a journey. The journey has begun. The country must move forward. We have no alternative to moving in the direction we're headed. And they should also demand from everyone, be it government, be it union, be it all stakeholders, to do what they must do to ensure that the dividends get to the people that should get to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For time's sake, Comrade Yusuf, on behalf of this panel, can you give us your final thoughts? What should be the key takeaway for the policymakers, the public, regarding subsidy removal? Thank you, please.
Thank you so much. The key takeaway here, on my view, is the fact that as of today, government is saving a lot of money after subsidy, especially on even the transportation of petroleum products. Hitherto, government pays for transportation across the country and equalizes the transportation. But there is a lot of saving on that. Now the market forces the timing. Now, also you find that government has saved a lot of money, even on the pump price. Government has saved a lot of money, because now there is no smuggling of this petroleum product. So it is a very good development, such that some of this money is now even channeled to proper use in terms of fact distribution. I appreciate government decision recently, the usage of train from the ports to Ibadan is a very good development. We would like to see such in place, usage of train, for example, for petroleum product, other heavy-duty goods, because I can see even, I understand there is a trend now from Warri getting to Ibadan. If we can use that, and if we can also use such train to move other heavy-duty goods like cement and whatever, to go a long way in reducing the weight on the roads. Because as far as I'm concerned, just like I said the other time, the government spent a lot of money on the repair of roads through Federal Ministry of Works, through NDDC, through constituency project, through FEMA, through state project, through local government, yet we still have bad roads. It means something is wrong. And it means that there is heavy weight on the roads. So government is saving a lot of money, and there is need to channel a lot of such money into proper use so that we get benefit of the saving. A lot of people are suffering now, but like we keep saying, in the long run, we are going to benefit. I believe that the saving is for good and it's for tomorrow. And also the fact that before now, the collection or the FAC, everything is distributed. But now, there is still, apart from distribution, there is still some saving, which is kept either in several world funds or so, I don't know. But I can see there is a lot of saving for tomorrow. So as much as possible, this deregulation has brought a lot of changes, and we believe that these changes will be for the good of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. There you have it, comrades. We have diverse discussions and insight on this topic. Thank you, panelists, viewers, thank you very much. I hope with all this, we will join hands and our viewers will have better insight and understanding of the issues and what we as people can do and what the government, the expectation is, and will hold the responsible stakeholders accountable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A round of applause for
And I would like to invite the panelists. Let's take a group photograph before we step off the stage. Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together for them. They have done justice to that topic. Fuel subsidy removal, balancing national economic realities and social impact. Thank you, Anyete Udo. Thank you, Ido Odium. Thank you, Peter Isele. Thank you, Yusuf Woodman, and also Razak Obe. A million thanks to you all. We're going to have a group photograph quickly before they get off the stage so that we move to the next item in our program. All right, can we put our hands together for them as they go back to their seats? Mr. President, we're almost at the point of calling it a wrap for today, but we still have a very important presentation to be made, and that is on enforcing stakeholders' accountability for achieving sustainable energy goals. We have carefully put this keynote presentation together, and we have asked one of us, a man who has spoken severally, the managing partner of Tenor Energy Resources Limited, Dr. Timothy Okon, to deal on Nigerian gas master plan. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, comrades, please help welcome to the podium Dr. Timothy Okon, managing partner, Tenor Energy Resources Limited, to speak on enforcing stakeholders and accountability for achieving sustainable energy goals. A round of applause for him as he comes up, please. Please, let's clap until he gets here.
Thank you very much. I want to thank PENGASSAN for inviting me. Before I accepted, I think I spoke to my nephew, and he told me, he said, well, don't tell them that you support subsidy removal. Or they will lock you up in one room there. And but anyway, I told him that it's too late now because my story is well known. So, but I want to thank you. I was listening to Peter Isele, and he mentioned that the issue now is not whether subsidy should be removed. It has been removed. Then he repeated the typical Nigerian paradox, which is that it's been removed, but it's still there. So I'm going to talk about gas. And fortunately, gas at least does not have subsidy in it. But of course, gas is quite an important hydrocarbon. Why it is important, I'll just say in 2 words. It is a low carbon hydrocarbon. What that simply means is that if you are looking at climate change and removing carbon, all right, your focus should be to substitute higher carbon hydrocarbons with lower ones. back to just start with Can you go to the beginning of the slide, please? Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, my contract, I'm told, is something like 35 minutes, and I have 40 slides. So, on the average, I have to do a quick job through it. But I'm going to have a conversation, really. And, of course, the presentation will be left here with you. But I'm going to have a conversation. What is the gas master plan? Why was the gas master plan necessary? Go to the next slide. Can I actually have the